What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Feud, and today we are talking top 11 waiver wire pickups of the week. We have our gracious Paul Cotton back today. He's a little under the weather. His voice isn't doing very well, so we're not going to default to him all day. We'll just let him be quiet. But if he wants to speak up, he can go ahead and give his 2 cents. And then also, I'm here with Mason, as always. He is talking to somebody off the camera right now, so, ignore him.
No, you're good.
But yeah, Paul, I'm going to default to you, even though I said I'm not going to anyways, since Mason's talking to someone. How's it going, man?
Not too bad. Like you said, I've been feeling a little under the weather. Sad to have missed the last couple little 2-minute drive episodes that we put out. You guys did great on those.
Thanks,
Me
Daddy.
being absent, problem. But I'm happy to be back.
All right, sounds good. Mason, how's it going, man?
What's going on, everybody?
Okay.
My other mama just bought me some food, so I'm super happy now.
We can just jump right into our waiver wire top 11 of the day, and we're going to start with number 11, and we decided that Kadarius Toney deserves to be in that slot, and again, I said I wasn't going to default to Paul, but I know this is his kind of guy, so I'll default to Paul again.
So nothing too crazy, but he was their first round pick for a reason. A lot of people thought he was one of the most electric players coming out of Florida, playing in the same offense as Kyle Pitts. But he's kind of more of a gadget, speedy receiver. And right now, Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton are both out. As far as I'm concerned, they're still out as of now. With hamstring injuries. So even when they do come back, we've already talked about it a couple of times that those type of injuries like to linger. If you don't sit out like the full entirety to come back healthy, otherwise it's just going to be an issue all year. I think he's somebody that kind of stepped up in the absence of those two last week. Dimes targeted him 9 times. He had 6 catches for 78 yards. That's obviously the most action he's had all season so far. And I think it was kind of a blessing in disguise for those 2 injuries that happened for him to kind of be thrusted into that role. And he showed that he can be a productive wide receiver. And so I think that's kind of one of the reasons why he deserves to be on the list for waiver wire pickups this week.
Yep,
I like
definitely does. Just alone due to Slayton Shepard being hurt, like, he definitely deserves to be a waiver wire pickup because he's going to show why he was drafted in the first round. Moving on to our number 10 position, we have Kenneth Gainwell, running back in Philadelphia, now seeing a complete 50-50 share with Miles Sanders almost. Mason, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about this because I am absolutely livid. I don't think Kenny Gainwell deserves this. Miles Sanders is completely electric every time he touches the ball. Now, that being said, last week, Kenny Gainwell had 9 touches and Miles Sanders had 10, and he outproduced Sanders. On the year, Kenneth Gainwell has 19 rushes, 84 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and he's got 13 catches for 114 yards receiving. Every time it seems like I look at the screen, they're taking Miles Sanders out of the game, especially on third downs. It really frustrates me because I know the guy's ultra talented. I have no clue what Nick Sirianni's doing in that offense. He's losing games, that's for sure. They need to get Miles Sanders 20-25 touches a game. So I'm not happy about this. And why? Because I'm selfish and I drafted a lot of Miles Sanders this year. But that being said, Kenneth Gainwell is a priority for waiver wire ads because he's getting a lot of usage in this offense right now.
Yep. Okay. Moving on to number 9, we have Danny Dimes. One of the top quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I believe that we said he is ranked number 6 in the quarterback position. He has almost 1,200 yards passing, 4 touchdowns passing, only 1 interception, and I believe that was on a Hail Mary last week, so it's like, can you even really count that interception? And he's had 188 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on top of that. That's very good fantasy production. Danny Dimes, if he hasn't already been picked up in a league somehow, I say pick him up. Me and Mason already grabbed him in week 2 in our league.
Yeah, I've got him in a bunch of leagues right now, but I do see him floating around on the waiver wire still, and I just think he's a solid backup quarterback, and obviously being number 6 right now in production, he's a viable starter each and every week.
Yep. Moving on to number 8. This is my guy. I think Chris Evans, technically the third string running back in Cincinnati, is going to be a good guy. We talked about this on our Joe Mixon video. If you want to go ahead and check out what we talked about Joe Mixon's injury on a different video in the past. Chris Evans, he is better than Samaje Perine in my eyes. I think you saw what Perine did when he was splitting small amounts of touches with Joe Mixon. He wasn't doing much, and now he's expected to be the lead back, but I expect Chris Evans to outperform him in Joe Mixon's maybe 1 to 2 week absence. I think personally Chris Evans takes over the number 2 position, and when Joe Mixon comes back, he has more of a larger role in that offense. And with Chris Evans alone, I think Samaje Perine is not a waiver wire pickup, because we're talking longevity in your league. You don't want to have somebody for just 1 to 2 weeks. You want somebody that you can trust throughout the year, and I think Chris Evans is going to be that guy. We already saw Perine isn't trustworthy with Mixon on the field.
Yeah, if you are in need of a starting running back, I would not waste my pick on Samaje Perine. Like Stone said, Chris Evans is good. That'll lead us into our number 7, which is Michael Carter. Again, if you are in need for a running back, he is looking to be the lead back right now. He's talented. This year, his rushing line is 37, rushes 127 yards for 1 touchdown. He's got 6 catches for 44 yards and 11 targets. Nothing crazy. It is a ultra untalented Jets team. I guess I can't really say that. I mean, they're struggling, okay? And throughout the year, it looks like Michael Carter might take the reins on that lead running back position. So if you need a starting running back, you might go after him.
Yep.
Paul, what do you think on Michael Carter? I know you like him a little bit.
As somebody who drafted him in a couple different leagues, I didn't really have the ability to let him kind of sit and marinate on my bench before he was going to actually be the starter. So kudos to you if you were able to kind of hold on to him throughout the struggles that he's had so far, of the timeshare with Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson to start the season. We're seeing Ty Johnson kind of taking over a little bit more, but it's still a pretty decent workload for Michael Carter. I think he's going to, like you said, I think he's going to take this job. It's just a matter of time, and if you have the ability to pick him up, stash him now. I would do so, because I think he's just going to continue to get better.
Yep, for sure. Moving on to our number 6 position in our waiver wire pickups of the week, we have Hunter Renfrow. We got the Fro in Las Vegas, one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL right now. He has scored over 10 points in every single game this year, and he is still sitting on waiver wires. I don't understand how, but last week he had 45 yards, another touchdown, had a pretty solid game, and had one of the best punt coverage plays I've ever seen. So nobody lined up on the guy on the outside. He's lined up as a return man, flies up the field and breaks up the pass. Even if he did catch the ball, the guy was a yard short. That was honestly one of the best punt coverage plays I've ever seen. That was awesome.
Yeah, I missed that. That's cool. I love Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah. Moving on to number 5, we'll glance by him.
Hold on. I want to. I guess I'm kind of known for giving you guys a little quick stats and facts.
Let's hear it, buddy.
Hunter Renfrow, I don't know. Obviously they've had 2 primetime games already this year, so had the ability to actually watch their games. And I know he's not somebody. He's not the sexy pick of Henry Ruggs or some of the other players that they have, but he's been very consistent. And one of his routes is a little squirrel route, is what they call it.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a quick in pivot, and you come back out. And in the preseason, when they were practicing with the Rams, Sean McVay and Matt Stafford had noticed that Derek Carr kept running that route combination with Hunter Renfrow. He kept burning Jalen Ramsey on it multiple times.
Didn't happen.
And so they ended up taking it and implementing it into their playbook for Cooper Kupp.
Yep. And he ran the route and got a touchdown against Tampa Bay, I believe Cooper Kupp did.
Yep, it was last week. He ran the exact route, the little scorer route, for a touchdown.
That's really cool.
That was something
I like
kind
it.
of fun.
It is such a filthy route, though. You literally, the announcers on ESPN were talking about it last night. They're like, it's not a coverable route for a cornerback if the receiver has time to pull it off. It's just nasty. Fro's underrated, man. Go pick him up.
Love him.
Number 5, we got Dalton Schultz. If he's still on the waivers in your leagues, I don't really know how at this point. The production that he's been having throughout the year has been great for the tight end position. Right now ranked as the number 4 tight end in fantasy, I believe.
Yeah, 4 tight end.
20 catches, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns through 4 games. That's very good numbers from a tight end, and I think he's just an easy top pickup if you're lacking at the tight end position.
Yeah, last week he had.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say last week he had the most targets on the Dallas offense with 8. The dude's been consistent lately. I thought Blake Jarwin was going to be the man, which Blake Jarwin's still getting looks, but Dalton Schultz is proving to be the number 1 over there.
Yeah, and I was just going to kind of throw in there real quick that I've already put in 2 claims for him. Surprisingly, he was on the waivers in the auction league that me and you run, Mason, as well as a solo league that we're in together.
Let's go after him.
Yeah, because Logan Thomas got hurt. He's now injured. He's going to be sitting out. And Dalton Schultz was there. I put in a waiver claim, but I'm not sure who to drop. So that's something we're going to have to talk about. Move on from them.
If you don't manage to get Dalton Schultz, go ahead and go after the number 4 guy that we have on the list, because he is picked up in recent weeks. That is Dawson Knox from Buffalo. He had a big game this week. But his overall stats, 15 catches, 144 yards, 4 touchdowns. Those stats aren't as sexy as Dalton Schultz's in terms of targets or receptions or anything, but look to see Dawson Knox really start picking it up, because those last 2 weeks he's definitely picked it up.
He's number 6 tight end right now in the NFL.
Yep.
Just with stats, and brought largely due to last week. But the guy is solid. I think he's going to go out there. He's going to put some duds out there. That's why he's a waiver wire option right now. But there are games where he could go out there and win it for you. So something to look at.
Yeah. So let's move on to our top 3 now. We have our last quarterback on the list at the number 3 position, and if he's still in your waivers, you have to go get him right now, because 4 games through a season, it's usually not a fluke at this point. Sam Darnold, close to 1,200 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, has thrown 3 interceptions. He's the ghost guy, so that's natural. He also has 52 rushing yards and a league-leading 5 rushing touchdowns. Obviously, when they get into the goal line, Sam Darnold is almost guaranteed to get a touchdown without McCaffrey in the picture. He's doing these RPOs and getting easy touchdowns off of them, and he's been passing the ball fairly well for the most part. I think he's the number 5 quarterback, Mason said, in fantasy right now, and he's got 3 straight 300-yard games. I think it's not a fluke at this point. I think Sam Darnold's someone you can play. I mean, he played against New Orleans and did good, and their defense is stout, so
yeah. I want to say their schedule's been on the soft side, but we talked about it earlier. He's in a pre-season before the season even started. Sam Darnold had a chance to come out here, new setting, new offensive coordinator, new head coach, just come out here and light things up, and he is doing well. He found his favorite target in the world. That's DJ Moore. Sad for Robbie Anderson. He is not getting looked at that much, but we saw that a lot with the Jets. Stone is not surprised by that.
No clue. Not at all.
But yeah. Now will we see a dip in his production? We don't know. But he's staying consistent right now. I would take the chance on him, stash him as either a backup or, if I need to, starting quarterback.
One thing.
I have a quick question for you guys.
What's up?
You find Sam Darnold kind of comparable as a quarterback to Joe Burrow at all?
That's
Joe
interesting.
Burrow? No, I don't think so. I think Joe Burrow's very good. I think Sam Darnold's good. I think Joe Burrow's very good.
Okay.
Oh, shots fired.
So
Sorry,
I see Joe, Sam Darnold can he can throw the deep ball. We've seen that with Robbie Anderson before. I think Joe Burrow's a little more electric. I think Sam Darnold's a little more careful the way he plays. I think Joe Burrow's a little more of a wild card. I don't know who I'd rather have. I'd probably rather have Joe Burrow, but Sam Darnold's playing some darn good football.
I think Joe Burrow's a better leader too.
So the only reason I ask is because they have a defensive coordinator, Joe Brady, which he was the one that orchestrated the 2019 LSU offense led by Joe Burrow. And they had a well-established receiving corps, Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall Jr. They had Justin Jefferson. And it's almost like he's running the same type of offense for Sam Darnold that they ran at LSU. had the electric scat back running back Christian McCaffrey, who you can compare to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Obviously, you can't compare the two in actual football, but that's the same type of position and the same type of running back that he had. Then you move it so you have multiple receivers where you can spread the ball around. You don't have to force feed one guy if he's being double covered or anything. You have the ability to go over the top, or the ability to go over the middle anywhere with DJ Moore. And so I think that it's really allowed him to kind of open up and flourish as a quarterback, because we never really seen him run those RPOs and that type of system with the Jets. They didn't really know what to do with him. They didn't know how to use him as a quarterback.
No.
And I think that's the biggest thing that we're seeing in the development of Sam Darnold in his fourth season is just the fact that Joe Brady's figuring out how to use him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Sam Darnold has potential to be a good quarterback, but with your initial question, I don't think he's better than Joe Burrow or ever will be better than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's in his second year, and he just keeps getting better every week, it seems like. More confidence. He's just a great leader, too. Like, I love everything about Joe Burrow.
I like Joe.
So let's move on to one of Sam Darnold's former targets in the receiver position in New York. That would be Jamison Crowder at our number 2 spot for waiver wire pickups. He came back off of injury. First week immediately with 9 targets, 7 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. That's 19 fantasy points in PPR. There is no reason not to go after this guy if he's available. He should be available. I mean, nobody really expected this out of him. Everyone thought Corey Davis is the number 1 receiver, but in my heart, I knew when Crowder came back, he was going to be the number 1 receiver for that team.
Oh, my God. Famous Jameis. I love this guy. Not famous Jameis Winston, but famous Jameis Crowder, baby. The guy is so solid. He started his career in Washington, and that's where I noticed him. I've always drawn comparisons to Antonio Brown to this guy. He's a little older now. He's set in his ways as a Jet, but the dude will go in. He will get 9-10 targets a week, hopefully anywhere from 5 to 8 catches. Not going to put up a whole lot of yards. Hopefully, sometimes he'll get 100. But if I went out and picked him up last week because I knew he was coming up on the waiver wire, or he was getting ready to play, just go get the guy. That's why he's our number 2. I think he's going to be somebody you can start each and every week.
Yep. I mean, if you have 3 receiver leagues, like, he's an easy flex no matter what, essentially. And even in 2 receiver leagues, he's going to be a flex for you. I mean, the guy's he's been the overall most consistent targeted receiver in the NFL since he's been in the league. Man, averages 11 targets a game. I know I'm making that stat up, but it just seems like he's getting that many targets every single game because he's that check down guy. He catches 1,000 balls a game.
He's amazing.
He's almost like a poor man's Jarvis Landry.
Yeah,
he's somebody that's going to get targeted. Yeah, but I mean, he doesn't have the same name allure as Jarvis Landry.
No, you're right.
That was somebody who put up multiple 100-yard or 100 season catches. 100 catch season.
100 season catches.
1,000 yards.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of seasons with just 1 catch.
All right. Well, moving on from that, we knew what Paul was trying to say, and he like he said, he's not the sexy name that Jarvis Landry is, but he always does it. We're number 1 waiver wire pickup of the week. I think most people are going to agree with this. David Montgomery goes down for Chicago, out for 5 weeks now. Who takes his place? It used to be Kansas City's starting running back. It's Damian Williams. He took the year off because of COVID last year, but he hasn't slowed down since. We got 2 Bears fans here, when we both can tell that Damian Williams has performed well for us when he's been on the field. He's just going to take over where Montgomery left off. I don't think he'll do as good as Montgomery because Dave Montgomery's a stud, but I do think Damian Williams is going to do well. He had 16 carries, 73 rushing yards, and a touchdown, and 8 catches, 41 receiving yards. I think that's the season, correct?
That's the season.
Yes,
that's the season.
So pretty solid stats. He had a good fantasy game last week, and I think he is somebody that you need to go for in your waivers if you're hurting at the running back position.
Yeah. Paul, you got anything to say on Damian? Sir Damian?
I agree with what Stone said, and I take nothing away from Williams. But like Stone said, he's just not the same back as David Montgomery. Don't necessarily expect the same type of production. This is an offense that everybody in the media, everybody in the league has been loving to run through the mud simply because of Matt Nagy. Obviously, he just gave up play calls last week. The game plan looked a hell of a lot better with Bill Lazor calling the shots. But that's something that we knew at the end of last year. the last 6 games of the season, Bill Lazor took over play calling. That's when Montgomery did most of his damage, and that's when the offense started to click. Well, again, we just seen it with Justin Fields' second start, a lot better than the last one. Damian Williams is going to be used in this offense because the only other running back is Khalil Herbert. Unless they bring Artavius Pierce from the practice squad or possibly Ryan Nall. I'm not sure if they're going to do that. But he is going to be used. And I'm just saying, don't expect the same results of what you would get out of David Montgomery, who consistently breaks tackles at the line of scrimmage, gains extra yards. There's probably going to be a lot of negative or neutral runs for him because that's just kind of the way it is in the game plan. And it's David Montgomery who does a lot of the damage individually by himself with his broken tackles, which I think since last year he's like second in the league with broken tackles. So, like I said, just he's going to be probably the hottest commodity to pick up. Just don't expect the same exact production of the player that he's going to be replacing.
I like it. Yeah.
All right, guys, this was our top 10 waiver wire claims of the week. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We still got 10 more minutes for the podcast here, and we're going to talk about one of our people that was in our comments the other week about some waiver claims that he sent us that he was curious about and the ideas that we have about it. So we're going to help him out here live on the podcast. If you're listening to this on Spotify, we're going to send you right to an ad break. But if you're on YouTube, we will be right into that segment right now. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are here to talk about one of our viewers' fantasy waiver claims that he has made this week. And I want to start with the first one that he had on the claim list. It was Latavius Murray dropping Giovanni Bernard. And I'll start off on this one. I think this is a very safe one. Latavius Murray has somehow turned himself clearly into the number one back in Baltimore because they don't like Tyson Williams. I don't think I'll ever understand that decision, but it's whatever, I guess. He's the number one in Baltimore for all we know. And Gio Bernard hasn't really produced like we all thought that he was in Tampa Bay. Like, to be fair, we didn't really expect much from the Tampa Bay running backs this year, but I thought Gio Bernard could be a sneaky guy this year, but he didn't pan out. What do you guys think about that?
No, I think that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and break down his roster just because this is a great scenario to kind of talk about. So he previously messaged me asking for trade advice. He just traded away Christian McCaffrey, Darren Waller, and I got one more, Robert Woods. And he received DeAndre Swift, Chris Carson, and Travis Kelce. I think that's a solid trade. I would do that personally. I would 100% do that. I think DeAndre Swift moving forward is solid. I think Chris Carson has just been solid all year, hasn't had injury trouble yet, knock on wood. And Travis Kelce, the best tight end in football. Now, he gave up Darren Waller. They can kind of be a wash sometimes, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have Kelce in that high-powered offense. So now we kind of look at other options. He asked me if we should drop Myles Gaskin or Trey Sermon for waiver wire ads. And if you're initially having running back trouble, I would hang on to these guys. I'd hang on to Myles Gaskin just because his usage in the offense is there. Yes, he put up a dud last week. That sucks. But he's still going to be used as the main running back. Then we've got Trey Sermon. That's one I'm a little iffy on. Hasn't done great with his opportunity. He's been okay. But Elijah Mitchell has seemed to be the guy in that backfield, but he's a little banged up right now. So when Elijah Mitchell is healthy, I'm keeping him on my roster. He asked us if we should drop Elijah Mitchell to pick up Damian Williams. He asked us if we should add Latavius Murray, drop Gio Bernard. Asked us if he should drop Rashad Bateman and pick up Kenny Gainwell. So now these are all, it just goes into your roster construction. So I looked at his roster. If you like Latavius Murray, that's fine. You can go ahead and probably drop Robbie Anderson or Gio Bernard for him. But my priority in this situation would probably be Damian Williams. That's just my thoughts. He's going to have 5 weeks as a lead back. I would not drop Elijah Mitchell in that situation. Okay. And then Kenneth Gainwell. Now we're sitting at way too many running backs, I feel like. So I'd be leaning towards wide receiver. I would sit here and I would consider Tim Patrick and AJ Green. That's the main two guys he mentioned to me that were on the waiver wire. Tim Patrick threw a dud last week. He had 3 great weeks before that. And then we look at AJ Green was his other one. Had 3 solid weeks in a row. I look at that Cardinals offense. There's a lot of mouths to feed. We got DeAndre Hopkins. We got Christian Kirk. We got Rondale Moore. We've got Max Williams that is now starting to eat. I like AJ Green. I just don't know if the consistency will be there week in and week out. But the last 3 weeks, he has shown it. What do you guys think about that?
I think if he's planning on dropping Rashad Bateman, I say grab Tim Patrick in his place instead of Kenneth Gainwell. But also, I think you'd probably rather want Kenneth Gainwell than Latavius Murray at this point, just because Kenneth Gainwell seems to be he's outproducing Miles Sanders right now, which is surprising to pretty much everybody on the planet. But if he continues to get more touches, Kenneth Gainwell is going to be really good. Whereas Latavius Murray, he's had the touches, and he has done nothing with them necessarily. He had a touchdown this week, but also his yards per carry, again, was not very good, I'm pretty sure. So, I
think his ceiling and his baseline are kind of similar. Latavius Murray is not going to go out there and get you 20, 30 fantasy points, but he's probably not going to score you under, 6, 7 fantasy points. So it's 7 to 10 fantasy points, maybe 15. That's his window. And
he's
that's
not gonna.
cool.
He's not gonna you can't start him. He's not gonna win you games. You can't start him.
I'm not starting him.
But if you're picking up Damian Williams, you're gonna be able to plug him right into your lineup week 1 because he's the number 1 running back, and he's pretty good. Like we said in the top 10 segment, he's our number 1 claim of the week. I believe that if you pick him up, he should be your number 1 claim, and you should be starting him. But he has this claim as Damian Williams to get rid of Elijah Mitchell. I say hang on to Elijah Mitchell. I think you should keep him for sure and try to find someone else that might be droppable. If you have Sermon and Mitchell, it's kind of tough because you can't really drop either of them because if one gets hurt, then the other one's going to be playing. So it's you're in that kind of awkward position. But I say find somebody else to drop other than Elijah Mitchell. Try to hang on to him for a little bit longer if you can.
Paul, what do you think?
You guys have covered most all the bases here. My only little input is when it comes to, you said possibly pick up Tim Patrick. As far as I know, Teddy Bridgewater is in concussion protocol. So that means that Drew Lock is going to be their starting quarterback. We've seen the issues that offense had last year with him as the starter. There's a reason Teddy took over in the offseason. And so for me, it's just – wouldn't necessarily say their production is going to depend on Teddy Bridgewater's health because we've seen he's kind of an elite game manager. He can go out there and he'll throw 3-4 touchdowns if he has to. But a lot of times he's not going to have the big, huge fantasy days. He's going to go out there and maybe get 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Minimal as a quarterback, but sometimes just because the quarterback numbers aren't as great doesn't mean that their skill position players don't have good numbers. And like you said, Tim Patrick showed that. He's been around that 10 to 12 point range for most of the year in the absence of Jerry Jeudy and then KJ Hamler. And he stepped up and he's shown that he can be that guy. He even did it last year a little bit when they were still relatively unknown and Cortland Sutton was out with his ACL injury all year. So I would just say take it with a grain of salt, kind of see where Teddy Bridgewater's injury is necessarily before making claim on Tim Patrick if he is still available. But, you guys covered most everything else that I want to talk about.
Yeah. No, but I'm not going to say his name, but good luck to your fantasy season there, man. I hope this information does you well, and I hope you can take this advice and run with it, man.
Yeah, so that leads us into talking about our specific top 10 waiver claims that we told you guys about. Doesn't specifically mean that that's what you need to grab. This is for people that are kind of newer to fantasy football and stuff. But if you have very good running backs, if you have 4 solid running backs, your number 1 claim should not be Damian Williams. You don't need to worry about him. You have 4 other guys that you can start every single week. You have 2 guys on your bench maybe that you can start every week that you're not starting. You don't need Damian Williams to add into that mix because it just gives you another headache. Go after someone like Dalton Schultz. If you're sitting there at the tight end position and you're starting somebody that's I don't know, if you had Logan Thomas, if he got hurt, Dalton Schultz is on the waiver wires. You have to go get him because he has been one of the best tight ends in the NFL this year. So just base this off of your positions. Don't go and say grab somebody because it's our rankings. This is just in terms of the production that we think people are going to have for their teams. We rank them upon that, and that's just for this week. This is Mason said this earlier. This is the best waiver wire week that we've had in a while. Probably the best year, honestly. So this is the week that you need to use your claims.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, so waiver wire is like this. You don't always have guys like Damian Williams, Jamison Crowder, Dawson Knox, Dalton Schultz that are just available for the taking. Sometimes you're waiver priority number 1, and you might not want to waste it on a pick if your best option is, Marlon Mack. And that's just a random name I'm throwing out there. So, like Stone said, this is one of the best waiver wire weeks we've had in a while. Use your claims wisely if you need to. If you're set on running back and you're like, I just want to pick up Damian Williams, maybe use him as some trade bait. That's one of your opportunities right there.
Paul, do you have any advice for anybody making waiver wire claims this week?
No, basically what you guys have said. Don't necessarily do it based on other rankings that you'll see, not just ours. Don't base it on just ours. You kind of have to make it fit your roster construction. Like they said, if you got good running backs, you might not necessarily be going after one of these guys. If you're kind of lacking on receiver, there's a couple options that are starters for the rest of the season. Hunter Renfrow, Jamison Crowder, those type of players. It's like Mason said, it's kind of rare that you'll have a lot of people sought after in one single week on the waivers. This is going to be kind of that week. Injuries have continued to plague the league. It's continued to plague a lot of fantasy starters. I know there's a lot of starting running backs that have gone down. I know there's a lot of starting receivers that have gone down. And this is just one of those weeks that you have to kind of look back at your team, analyze it, kind of get an outside opinion on it. And then from the results that you get or the review that you get, just kind of have to determine what's the best course of action for how you want to attack the waivers this week. And there's plenty of options.
Yep. This is the week that can turn your team around, honestly. If you're having a bad season, you can grab somebody off the waivers and it can almost immediately turn your team around in most leagues. This is the week to make it happen.
Guys, there's 3 names that I haven't name dropped because there's so many just people out there this week that I think we'd be not doing our due diligence if we didn't mention these guys. I'm just going to give them a quick shout out. Number 1 that I would consider is if you need defense help, the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I drafted them this year. I dropped in a couple leagues, picked them back up. I think they're going to be a solid defense moving forward as far as points that they can get you from interceptions, fumbles, sacks, stuff like that. Number 2 would be Curtis Samuel. He's just coming off of IR. I think that's somebody you should keep on your radar. If you guys don't get any of the claims you want this week, think about stashing Curtis Samuel because as the season picks up, he will keep moving forward and being better and better in that offense. And then the last one I want to talk about, Marlon Mack. This is another one. It's all right, I'm throwing a shot out of a cannon. I didn't say that right. But anyways, they're looking to trade Marlon Mack. So if they trade him to a team that needs a running back and he just fills right into a starting role, you will have a starting running back. So think about that, guys.
All right, yeah, and that's going to close things up for the podcast here today. If you guys need waiver claim help, I hope that we're helping you out a lot this week, especially some of the newer guys to fantasy football this year. Like the waivers are much more important than some people would think they are. I'm personally somebody who doesn't even jump on them very often, but I know this is one of those very important weeks where you do need to hop on and get somebody that's going to win you a league.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for stopping by and listening today. If you're listening to this on YouTube, just drop a like, comment, subscribe, comment if you have any questions about waiver wire pickups or anything like that in general. We're more than happy to help. We've been having a lot of engagement with the community recently, and we've been really enjoying it. It's just an excuse for us to talk more fantasy football, honestly, and we just love to help you guys out. Also, I want to shout out our social medias. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. We're at the Fantasy Few on all of those. Our Instagram and Twitter are a little slow, but our Facebook's where we post most of our videos and stuff like that. We are pretty active on there. And again, if you guys enjoy the video, like it, subscribe. It helps us out a lot, keeps us wanting to go after and make more videos to help you guys out as much as possible.
Heck yeah.
Paul, you got anything to say before we head out of here?
No, just kind of touch on what you just said. If you guys enjoyed the video, smash that like button. It definitely helps us out. It kind of starts to move our episodes to further engage with the community. It kind of pushes it out to more people. So if you liked it, if you enjoy it, keep hitting that like button. Keep hitting the subscribe button. We're gaining viewers every day, more subscriptions, and we're going to keep putting out this content for you guys.
Absolutely. And I also forgot to say, before I give it off to Mason, go ahead and check out our Spotify too. If you guys are like just on a road trip or something, we post these podcasts on Spotify as well. So go ahead and give it a listen over there if you don't have the time for YouTube sometimes. Mason, you want to kick us out of here?
Fantasy Feud out, baby. Let's go.